You get great rates and you don't have to deal with any of the bull. MVP, basically a foregone conclusion. Not to Micah Parsons, who went to bat for his quarterback. Take a listen.
Lamar played great. Obviously, he's going to win MVP because how the media looks at it. But Dak played the best football in the NFL. As a quarterback, no one can tell me differently. The stats, the film, he's been able to extend what he did this year. He is by far my MVP.
It's great. First of all, Micah, you're doing an awesome job.
It's a great.
Like if he didn't play football, I'd be like, here's Micah Parsons, a guy who lives in Texas, and he's still interesting. Okay, so this season, same, Lamar has more wins, obviously, but all the numbers there are closer than expected. Well, total TVs, Dak has 38, and Lamar only has 29. Yeah. So, Nick, is there a case that Dak's the real MVP? We're also welcoming in Greg Jennings, Super Bowl champion.
I think there's a very obvious and easy case. I think you can make a super compelling case for those two people and those two people only. As the year ended, with McCaffrey being hurt, his numbers slowing down, Purdy imploding in that one game, and I think having a bad 3-game stretch, and Tyreek not coming close to 2,000 yards. Mm-hmm. I think there are two people who you can sit on television or in front of a microphone like Micah and make a compelling argument for, which is why I find it so odd that if the Vegas odd journey were close to be correct, it is a runaway. Mm-hmm. It is damn near unanimous. That's the part that I am not going to neg Lamar and act like that, oh my God, Lamar doesn't deserve it. I think it's totally credible to vote for Lamar. But one of the things Brew was saying throughout the year that at one point was true and I no longer think is, but it's such a weird year. When you look at Dak's numbers and the fact that his team did climb to the 2 seed, it's no longer a weird year. It's just like, usually that wins MVP. Now, Lamar is a unique case because it is a lot of eye test. His impact on the game and the pressure he puts on defenses, which is why I'm totally fine with him winning it. But Dak should have if there's 50 first-place votes, I think it's close enough to where it should be in the 20s to in the 20s, like a 28-22 vote split. And I think it's going to be closer to like 45 for Lamar, like 3 for Dak, and a couple for Josh Allen.
Who would you vote for?
My vote would go to Lamar.
Yeah.
But I also oddly think that what hurt Dak was that Lamar didn't have to play in Week 18. And so we just totally threw away Dak's Week 18. Dak's Week 18, I know they're playing Washington, was wildly important. Yep. They lose that game, they didn't know the Eagles were going to lose too, but they could have fallen to the 5 seed. And he dealt and was awesome. So I just think there's a real case for it.
Look, I think it should be closer. I'm with Lamar, but it should be closer than the odds are saying.
Yes.
I think there's too strong. I mentioned the eye test for Lamar. Obviously, had the best record, but it's just one game separating.
Yes.
All right, but I think two big things, Greg, for Lamar. First of all, the injuries. All right, Dak had a top 2, 3 receiver on his team. All right, Lamar played he lost his top 2 running backs.
That's totally legit.
He lost his all-pro tight end or Pro Bowl tight end in Mark Andrews and made Isaiah Likely. Now he's a player. And, Nick, I don't know if you still agree, you said midway through the season, Kansas City's receiving core was better than Baltimore's. So he didn't have a great receiving core. I think it's good.
I agree with
that. Okay, so not a great receiving core. And so I think that's the first argument for Lamar over Dak. Secondly, and I'm big on who you do it against. Against the playoff teams, these are their numbers.
Good.
Lamar was better. Look at the passing yards. He's right there. Obviously, we expect Dak to be better with that. But completion percentage, reception ratio, yards per attempt, and obviously passer rating. So Lamar was better against the best teams over Dak, too. So I think those are the arguments why Lamar gets it.
What's interesting about this is early in the season, I was saying Dak is the MVP. So you guys know how I feel about Dak. He's had a tremendous season. I don't think there's a way you can make that case now simply because when they needed him to be great, those last 3 games, not the last 3 because the Washington was the last 3, but you mentioned it was a throwaway, clearly a throwaway. But Buffalo, on the road, We know they had road problems and road issues. Could they overcome those road issues and those woes? And he played great. He did not play great in that game, and they got blown out. And then you go to Miami.
I thought he was really good in Miami.
He was good in Miami, but you lose the game.
Not good.
And so that's almost a wash. And so in those games, and then Detroit, it's like he was great in Detroit against Detroit. They won, but it's like a question mark on that game. Like, I understand. And then if I go back to Lamar, on top of all that you said, he was in a completely new offensive system. And the thing about Lamar was, okay, can he be a throwing quarterback? Can he come from behind? He checked every box. So it's hard to say you have a case that is comparable to Lamar. When you look at the numbers, absolutely. Right. Dak had a phenomenal year, a great year. You see the numbers and the stats and the rankings. He had a great year, but it's Lamar.
Sorry, this is Josh came up. A lot of the ideas that I say are just like my own concoctions. This is 100% Josh.
You know how the audience knows if it's smart or not. they're like, oh, that must be that Josh guy's
The
thing.
Vikings pick was all you.
That was Josh. I was like, I'll go with it, Josh. He got blown out twice, obviously, San Francisco and Buffalo. The last 8 MVPs combined, only 2 losses combined by 20+, and Dak had it, twice in 1 year. So
I would also say, Nick, that while Dak's numbers were very good and they were the best this year, the quarterbacks, they're not like typically it might be a guy with 40 touchdowns.
Oh, I agree with that.
5,000 yards. Like they're really good, but they're not quite.
I know.
You know
they're
what I mean?
not runaway. They don't measure up to Lamar's first MVP, either of the Mahomes MVPs, or Rodgers' last 2 MVPs. That part I totally agree. Nobody this year threw for 5,000. Nobody threw for 40 touchdowns. Much less 50 touchdowns, which we kind of got spoiled.
In 17 games, obviously.
Mahomes may have left an MVP on the table then.
What do you mean?
This MVP was up for grabs. If he played at his normal Mahomesian level, that was an MVP he could have grabbed.
That's okay.
If they still had